It all began right here, 25 years ago. It began with a group of families and a vision. They believed that the ancient story of Jesus was relevant to all generations, and that the church should be something more than just a country club for those who are already convinced. They believed in a place where hope wouldn't just be a word to describe the future, but that the story of Orchard Hill would be told through the changed lives of people. A place where families could thrive, where hurting people found healing, and where children could understand that they were really loved by a God who cared and knew them personally. A place where hearts got connected to each other and with God. And they had a feeling that God was calling them to step out and try to become a true biblical community that was vibrant, real, authentic, and relevant. And it all began right here in this traditional Episcopalian church, in a small room that they called the Upper Room, with a dream, a vision, and a commitment.
In 1987, St. Stephen's Church in Sewickley, of which my wife and I were members, planned to plant a church.
We were meeting in the upper room at St. Stephen's, and that was kind of more the core group of Orchard Hill. And then another thing that we were doing that was kind of unique at the time is we were taking the gospel outside of the church. We met once a month, had a band on the Gateway Clipper. It was the 101 band, and we held a Christian cruise on the boat.
We had to acquire financial guarantees from 19 families in order to get the money to build this church. And those 19 families, of which we were one, really made some significant commitments of their assets in order for this to get done.
I was quickly sold on the vision, and we wanted to build a culture that would be open to people who hadn't been in church maybe ever, maybe for a while. And we were all very excited about it, very committed to it.
One of the reasons I got excited about the prospect of Orchard Hill Church was I had a lot of friends that I'd grown up with and went to school with that if I would have invited them to the church I grew up in, they probably wouldn't have come with me.
We put up the initial building, and we had a microburst. The entire construction project blew over.
I looked at the church site, and it was a bunch of toothpicks. The whole thing had collapsed. The wind, they'd had a storm while we were gone, and the wind blew the thing down. And the headline said, "Act of God," was what blew the church down.
We actually talked about giving up at that point and decided that we were not going to give up. And we just told the contractor to begin again.
And we built the first church. We opened the doors the first Sunday and stood there in prayer waiting to see how many people would show up.
We built a building that seated 300, which today sounds tiny, but when you only have 54 people, that's a leap of faith to build $1 million building to seat 300.
And then the chapel finally opened in May of 1989.
Over 300 came, which was really great.
It really grew quickly.
In 3 years, we outgrew that building, literally outgrew it with kids and adults.
And just really neat to see how God was providing and drawing people.
My wife and I joined Orchard Hill Church in the early 90s. Some friends brought us here, but we came here and we experienced the personal relationship with Jesus Christ that we had not experienced before, and it was life-changing for us.
I never got it, really, until Orchard Hill.
The wife and I came right after it started, and we think that it's the greatest place that you can ever come to.
6 years later, when we built the new church, we had borrowed $6.5 million. Family signed a lot of personal guarantees.
I came here right after the building opened in 1998, and it was so exciting.
There are ups and downs in the church, just like in a family, but we were committed to one another.
Church is like a family, though. All kinds of things happen, and you have these joys and triumphs, and you have these sorrows and downtimes, and you see people you love who move on.
Shortly after the opening, there was a division in the church, and hundreds of families left to go form a new church.
And we had times that were struggles, times when we lost key staff members, times when there were financial challenges.
But again, we didn't give up. We just kept moving forward.
And God has been faithful through the years. We've seen tens of thousands of kids hear the real story about Jesus and a God who loves them at Kids Fest. And over these last 25 years, over 170,000 people have come to our Christmas services to hear the story of the birth of Christ and what it means to them. We've added a great kids wing where hundreds of kids each week come to worship and learn. We have a gym to have outreach to the community. We have a TV and radio program going on. There's a second location in the cultural district. We started Kids Fest Haiti, and there are thousands of people walking through these doors each week for weekend services and so many other ministries happening here at the church.
I like coming to Orchard Hill because our small group is really involved and we really like the friends we made there.
And we've also really enjoyed being part of the student ministry here, especially with the middle schoolers.
Orchard Hill means a lot to me. I'm involved with small groups and I lead worship with Kidsburg and Collide and at Kids Fest. I really love pouring into the kids' lives there.
We've been coming here for about, 2 months now? Is that right?
3 months, yeah.
About 3 months, okay. I think when we first walked in, we loved the music and also how applicable Kurt's messages are.
Because it really just draws you in, and before you know it, you're just like really thinking about, oh my gosh, Kurt just had an awesome message, you know?
Yeah.
I first got hooked by Kurt's messages. When I got the opportunity to serve at the church, I got to know people, and they really got involved in my life and really cared about me.
Life is always giving you ups and downs, and there's difficult times, but to be able to come to Orchard Hill and feel so welcomed and feel like a part of a new family has meant the world to me.
I realized that a huge role in my life is to share Christ to others, and I think Orchard Hill has really prepared me for that.
25 years later, the dream that the original families had is still alive, and I'm so thankful for so many who've contributed, given, served over the years to God's work here at Orchard Hill and through Orchard Hill to make it possible. But what I'm really excited about is the future and how the best days of Orchard Hill's ministry, I believe, are still in front of it as we will see God reach more people, the story of changed lives told more and more often, and the impact in this community and beyond through what God does here is what is most exciting.
I would have never foreseen 25 years ago where we stand today in the community.
I come home every week and my wife and I talk about it. I tell her it's just so great to see all these young families. I'm so happy that what we did so long ago has worked out this way.
I have had the privilege of seeing many people come to faith in Christ, which is just the most awesome experience you can ever have in your life. So this is much more than we could ever imagine, but God had bigger dreams than we did.
Where can we go? Who knows? God knows.
I'm really excited to see what God's going to do in the next 25 years, in the next 50 years, in the next 100 years in this neighborhood, in this community, in the city of Pittsburgh, and just having a place where the gospel is alive and people are growing in their faith.
The story of Orchard Hill is going to be told in the changed lives of people, those lives that have already been changed and those that will be over future years.